Or something. Thanks for bearing with me. This is the the amateur grind, dude. But I don't feel so bad. We hadn't even really got things started, so I can kick things off here, and I'll give people a little intro, let them know what they're about to get into. So this is Fly Information, a spin-off from After the Smoke is Clear, where I've been talking to artists across the country. Tonight I'm talking to Zaze. He's a Toronto-based artist who has been making music. I read in a bio since 2001, at least. Anyways, so yeah, man, welcome to the show. Welcome aboard. Glad you could be here.
Respect, brother. Respect.
Yeah, man, how you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Just another day. Got a 15-year-old daughter on my hands right now, so life's fun in the household.
Always exciting.
Daddy remote.
Right.
I also have an 11-year-old daughter that just made her rep team and stuff like that. So we're always playing both sides of the fence while staying heavy on the grind through music and everything, trying to maintain, right?
Definitely,
All
man.
about the passions.
Yeah, that's the independent artist struggle, is trying to balance, like, how do you have a real life and have time to do all of this promotion and making of the music, actually, or whatever, man.
100%.
Yeah, right.
You know what? And you get to have somewhat of a real life at the same time, and that's something to be said, because some people don't get to have firsts with their children and stuff like that, and it's nice.
Yeah, definitely.
As a guy who enjoys watching his kids grow, it's nice.
Good to be around for the kids. You've got a track on Rorschach there that was specifically like dedicated to your daughter, right?
Yeah, exactly. About my oldest, yeah. Basically because she, like, I was a real fuckhead when I was a kid. Can I swear?
Yeah, oh yeah, you can swear. Yeah, that's all good, man.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a real, fuckhead when I was a kid, and, doing whatever the hell we wanted to do, and got arrested a few times, and did a lot of drugs, and, did all the fun things that made us fucking tick when we were little punks in the streets.
Yeah,
and so sold whatever we could sell, and, made whatever money we could make just to keep supporting the party, really. Realistically, we weren't trying to grow and build when we were young. Like, it's kind of funny. We were just about having the best time we could have, taking limos everywhere we went, and traveling. And I did a bunch of touring when I was young and shit like that too. But
yeah, actually, this interview's happening because you popped up. I think I posted a clip of I think it was Epic talking about how he started the scene in Saskatoon or whatever, and how it sounds unreal when he tells people it or whatever. Nobody believes him, but yeah, man, you said, like, you had prairie rap stories like that. So I was like, all right, well, that's what we're here for. So I definitely want to get into some of that stuff, man. Like, when was the first tour you went on to?
First tour was called the Never Say Never tour. It was with Royce da 5'9", Joe Budden. And that's funny right now because we could touch on that a bit, because he's kind of popped up in the media heavy right now.
Joe Budden, sure, yeah, podcast heavy, yeah.
And D12, it was Swifty McVeigh, Kaniva, and Bizarre. So it was 3 members of D12 at the time, and then Classified as well from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, man, that's a sick lineup. It was a
heavy hitting tour.
To
be honest with you, it was of all the tours we went on, and we did a lot of, we ended up doing 4 across Canada's with, like, pretty heavy duty artists every time. But this one, we were treated the best. Like, tour manager that ran this tour, this guy named Kino, shout out to Kino if he's still out there doing his thing. But he was Royce's manager, and we had fucked around with Royce a lot at the time with my boy Peter Jackson, if you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody does.
Hardest working man in Canada, or whatever, in hip hop in Canada.
We already shot a video with Royce, brought him down for that. We've done a few shows with him and stuff. So we built a little repertoire at that time, which was kind of nice. So we went in with a little bit of a comfort zone. And like I said, this guy Kino really, like, showed up for us in the way of, like, picking us up in limos everywhere we went, showing up. And in the back, or first of all, making sure we're showing up at shows on time so we could just party until he said we had to go. So, like, he took the responsibility away from us at a young age, which was kind of nice, because we were probably about 19, 20 at this time. and then taking us to the backs of clubs, and we'd go in through like the VIP, so we wouldn't even have to go in and see anybody or the stage until we walked out to it from the back. So
Nice.
It was a real professional approach. And at that time, we hadn't had many professional approaches, right? You're usually drinking at the bar with everyone before you go on stage type thing. And
right.
You get on stage and everyone's like, oh, you rap? Right? So,
yeah, man, it sounds like having a team behind it probably went quite a ways. Like I always hear people talk about how important it is to have like, a good road manager, and even people who kind of just like have done it before, right? People who are used to being out there touring. Yeah.
And the perspective that a lot of people, when they go out on the road, usually it's like kind of every man for himself. And it usually is that way everywhere. Like even when people say, because I've done this a lot, you're like, I'm opening for this guy today, or I'm opening for this artist. But most of the time you don't even get to see the guy. It doesn't really do, like it might do something for your local career, but it ain't doing shit for you in relation to what that artist is doing. You're not really hopping on no movement or anything, other than if your fans like that artist and you put on a good show at a show, then you can gain some new fans in your hometown type thing.
Yeah, exactly. It gets you in front of a bunch of people who at least like hip hop, right?
Exactly. And live shows are the best way to catch on people, because even if you go to a show and you get 5 people that love your shit, that's 5 people that might carry on to another 5 people, to another 5 people, and it might go on forever. So like, definitely continue to do shows no matter what. I'm just saying, don't think you hit a home run and you won just because you're opening for an artist. But going out on this tour, it was like a team mentality where they basically said, like, you guys like sat us all in a room and they're like, you need to start off the show properly. And then Royce is going to go on, and then Budden's going to go on. And if any of you fuck up, you fuck it up for the rest of us. So it's a team effort type thing, right? And we're like, okay, so like we matter. Like, we're bringing a product here. It's a full show as opposed to a bunch of individual performances, which it was a big thing because, and the reason I say that, and I won't go on about the rest of them right now, we could get into like details about certain things, but none of the other tours were like this.
Just because
like
of kind of
for the phone call, and like you're like shit, and some guys like, are you guys performing or what? Because you're on in 5 minutes, and we're like, oh fuck, there's no one here to tell us this.
Yeah,
right. So then, and then you start getting used to that grind. But yeah.
So was the difference in how you booked the tours after that compared to that, or like different management companies, or kind of lack of management companies? I know some artists just kind of book gigs themselves and then do it all themselves.
Like, shout out to PJ, because it was a lot of it was on the strength of his booking and his management skills behind the scenes, because he works very hard behind the scenes, as you all know, and that's kind of a big part of why he is where he is, because business is more than half the game, right? So,
hell yeah.
So within that, it was kind of like, we got ourselves a spot on some tours with some really good artists that were coming in, and they were based on the strength of us putting the tour together. But we weren't necessarily going to manage these artists as young kids. We're not going to go out and tell these guys what to do. We're just kind of playing our role. We, doing what the hell we had to do behind the scenes. And then they would show up either with somebody or without somebody. Like we went with Busta Rhymes one time, and he just shows up with bodyguards. There's no management. You just gonna need to be on, like, make sure you're at sound check when you're there, and make sure you show up when you're supposed to be on stage when the club tells you that it's time to go on, because, the venue's really running that show at the time. And plus, you're doing some big venues when you're out with Busta Rhymes, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Shit like that. So, and when Busta Rhymes is coming, get out the fucking way, because his bodyguards ain't having nobody getting near him. So,
I mean, shit, even Busta Rhymes without bodyguards could probably rip me up and tear me in half if he wanted to.
He is a bodyguard himself.
There's a big man. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, trust me. We went with Naughty by Nature one time, and it was like, I think the guy, I don't even remember this time. I think it was Clive. And if it was, shout out to Clive, but he was wearing like an old school starter jacket with the pouch in the front and like, looking out for his boys. I think he was an old school boy from the hood, but he didn't give a shit about anybody else. So, and nor should he at the same time, right? It was his job to take care of his boys. He was probably they're like tour manager or whatever it may have been, but tour assistant, so to speak. But yeah, so it's different experiences, but different experiences are what life is.
Hell yeah,
sometimes, man. We get fed with a silver spoon and you get your ass kicked into the real world. And sometimes it's the opposite. And you fight your ass off with that silver spoon. So it is what it is, right?
Yeah, man. Are you still looking at going on tour, or with the kids and family upstairs is a little bit more difficult to take off on the road for a
Yeah,
while?
realistically these days I'm willing to do anything, but obviously I can't do everything, if that makes sense. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
hell yeah.
So if someone was like for example, I like to do like 3, 4, 5 show little runs around spots in Ontario where for the most part I can kind of dip out and be home the next day type thing. Still kind of take care of my responsibilities and do what I need to do on the flip end of it. But at the same time, like it's a grind. Like it's, everyone thinks, even tour, man, when it's not all fun and games. Half the time you're like, man, I can't wait to get there and do my show and go to fucking bed because I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and half the time you don't know where bed is, right?
No, and then the show happens and you have a couple drinks and you party again, and then the next night you feel twice as shitty, and it's this forever rolling ball. And I ended up, a soup is my number one go-to on fucking tour, just to maintain that voice on top of feeling like you're getting something hearty in your soul.
That makes sense. Yeah.
The shit out of it.
Were you guys doing gigs every night? Like was sore voice actually setting in? Yeah.
Basically, yeah. It was maybe you might do like a 7 and 9 or an 8 and 10 or something like that. So you got some gaps. Like Thunder Bay was always a 1 day gap, because like if you're not doing a Sudbury show or like a Sioux, which we didn't have on those tours, it was usually Toronto to or Barrie, maybe stop like that, to Thunder Bay, which is about a 15-hour wrap around the lake.
Yeah.
So there's no other way around it. So within that, how are you really going to drive 15 hours overnight?
They make you go slow along the side of that lake. I've only drove, through Ontario once, but it amazed me. I was like, you want me to go 90 kilometers an hour along this motherfucker? I'm going to be here for 3 days.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? So
makes sense, man.
Yeah, so you do that, and then you do like Winnipeg, Saskatoon, Banff. We did a couple times. A place called Wild Bills. Went up to Fort Mac, Caledon, a whole bunch of places. Prince George. So I've been all over the map, right? But
nice.
Most of those places, when you get out west, you can do them in a night. You can go night to night, from spot to spot, right?
Yeah, it's easy enough to drive across the prairie. You can cover a lot of ground. Yeah, get from wherever you need to be to wherever you're going. Did you ever play in Edmonton or Calgary?
Yeah, we did West Edmonton Mall once. We did Cowboys once. We did Flame Central in Calgary once.
Nice, yeah. No, I was surprised you said you went from Saskatoon to Banff or whatever. I was like, what about the main ones out there?
You're right. Why did I jump Calgary and Edmonton? Realistically.
Right.
Yeah, and we went up to Fort Mac and everything too. And you know what's funny? My sister, God rest her soul, she passed away a few years ago. Won't get into that, but
rest in
peace. She lived up in Grand Prairie, Alberta.
Okay.
So I kind of been all over the map, and I lived out in Vernon when I was a kid and shit like that. So I got a lot of West Coast connections.
Okay,
I know
nice.
the place well.
How long you been in Toronto?
I've been out here a long time. Like I was born here. I moved out west when I was 8. Came back when I was 10.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I got family that's lived out there my whole life. Like never been out here, and I got friends that have I actually bought tickets to go out to Comox on November 1st to visit a buddy of mine that's right on the island there.
Okay.
So,
yeah, nice, man. I wanted to talk about either Rorschach, or if you feel like you'd rather talk about the new project you told me is coming, we could do that. But I did want to ask about Rorschach a little bit. It's your 4th solo album, it says. How many group albums would you have on top of that? Because your bio also talks about being in a group with various 4 other guys or whatever, Flex and Theory. And...
Yeah, Nano Nickel, which is now like Nano Nickel Entertainment. It's not really a group, which is Peter Jackson's company that he's running right now. It was me, Peter Jackson, one of my boys, Flex, the anti-hero. Shout out to Flex. He's he actually just dropped a Rage Against the Machine kind of rock rap style project.
Nice, like live band.
Yeah, they're called Iodine. If you want to look them up, I don't have no problem promoting my people.
Hell yeah.
And then my buddy mine, K Stu, which is kind of funny in talking about the tours. The last tour we did was Tech 9, and we ended up flipping a vehicle that we were in, going from Saskatoon to Calgary show, and we kind of cut our tour short in Hanna, Alberta.
Okay.
And We went. It was fucked up. It was a fucked up day.
I've played Hannah. The zoo, is that? I think it was called the zoo or some shit like that. the club there.
But I mean, we just flipped there, and we had to fucking just stay in their hospital and take the one ambulance. Took a couple of my buddies because they got hurt.
Damn.
And then the one cop came and picked us up, and then we had to end up going to another accident. And they're like, you got to sit in the back of the cop car. We don't have any other buddy to take you. And we're riding up, and we're in the back of this cop car like a bunch of criminals, but we just got in an accident. Literally flipped our vehicle 3 times off the highway. We're sitting in the back of the cop car for an hour and 15 minutes. So it was quite a messed up day. But
was it a rental or was it somebody's personal vehicle?
It was my Chevy Blazer with a narrow wheelbase.
Damn, yeah, those will roll. Yeah.
That thing spins out of control. They'll roll. Yeah, they've been known to.
Yeah.
So that happened, and as a group of Nino Nickel, we had released a bunch of mixtapes. So I got a mixtape with K Stu. We had a mixtape as Nino Nickel. Flex and Peter Jackson had a mixtape. Peter Jackson had a couple of his own mixtapes. I had 2 of my own mixtapes.
Okay.
We were doing all that, and we were kind of like, because we're young, just trying to get ourselves into the game and stuff like that. And then we had some recorded songs, but that were never put together as a full project yet. And we were touring with these recorded songs and mixtape songs, basically. We had enough to put together, because when you're an opening act, you need to put together, a smashing 15 to 20 minute set tops. And that wasn't no problem as long as you're rapping fucking well and doing what you need to do, bringing the proper energy, then it's fine. So, and sometimes when people don't know you, it's good to do a track or 2 over something that people know and just smash it. Yeah. Right. Because it gets people kind of like, oh, okay, I know this. And they nod their head because they're like, can't help
recognizable beat.
Liked it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So then after this happened, so we end up doing these tours on the strength of this for like about 7 years. And we recorded tons of music. Like I said, just never put together a full album project. But we had tons of songs by this point. And then the car flipped. We came home, and that's literally when all our solo careers started. It was like this odd happening where we all just kind of, I don't know what it was, man. It's kind of like it kind of scared the shit out of everyone in a certain way, but it also didn't make anyone want to stop what they were doing. It just kind of made everyone kind of put their head down and go in their own direction. And the one guy
was partying together kind of part of the reason that car flipped. I mean, I don't want to incriminate anybody, but was it maybe a little bit of like everybody being like, this is a bit much of a party, let's step back and do a solo artistry thing?
Yeah, it could have been a part of it, because it was like we were partying until like 2:30 in the morning, and then we're getting up at 6:30 a.m. and driving 7 hours to the next city, right? So. And I remember we did hit like a flash snowstorm, and it was fucked up. But anyway,
dude, that's the other thing that you don't hear enough artists talk about is like, tour is tough, it's shitty, it's long drives, all that. You hear people say that, but it's also something that kind of forces you to party on. I mean, like, not force you to, but it's easy enough to be lured into just nonstop partying, right? Which, beats up on a guy's health and mental and everything else, relationships.
You want to turn down free alcohol, free food, free like you're put on a plateau already, and everyone wants to party with you. And
you could stay sober, but you got all those drink tickets, right?
Best of luck.
Yeah, man. But yeah, dude, it's been a long time you've been on the road. Like, is there a difference that you could say between kind of touring back in the day across Canada compared to modern era touring? Or when's the most modern
back
touring
in the day was complete, like the type of shit, like if we had good video cameras. See, when we were touring, this was when like our phones had video, but it was like 8-bit Nintendo graphics.
Right.
So nobody was using those to, share information and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if we had that back in the day, this is the type of shit you like make documentaries off and shit. People passed out on floors and, pissing off of balconies into the indoor valets of hotels, and
if not documentaries, people are at least making like great content out of it,
losing one of the group members for a full night until you have to leave for the next city the next day. uh, flying home with girlfriends from different cities for a couple weeks. All these different things, right?
Yeah.
But now it's a straight grind. It's for the passion, for the love of it. It's to help grow the music. Back then, I will say there was like the business that was being done on my end.
Yeah.
Like PJ and like I'm not going to keep gassing this guy this whole interview, but
hey, I mean, if that's the guy, why not?
Yeah, he definitely took care of his business opportunities as much as possible. Rarely did he take time to like that loosen party because he was always looking at that like next business strategy and that next day and how to stay on his toes with the next movie he wanted to make and stuff like that, right? So while we're just really fucking letting loose and not giving a shit about what we're doing, just having a good time, right? As many people back to the room and let's have a good friggin' time. But now, like I said, most of the time I'm not going like I did Insane Clown Posse. I did like 4 shows on that tour solo in Ontario, went as far as Sarnia. I'll be honest, man, that was probably the best freaking shows I ever did in my life.
I was just gonna ask, man, did it live up to the ICP hype? Because they have the whole Juggalo movement that comes out to support so heavy every time.
I went to Sarnia with like my hype man the first night and just kind of sat back and watched from the back of the place because I heard, and because you're gonna get hit with flying 2-liter bottle rockets and shit like that. and it's a show, I'll tell you that much. On top of the fact that the crowd is wild, like it's just like. It's more like rock and roll than hip hop. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Like where mosh pit style,
screaming and it was a good time. And then kind of let my people know. And then we did Oshawa. I might have did Toronto, and then we did Guelph. And the Guelph show, I remember of them all. Like every single show was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but the Guelph show for some reason, I think because it had these balconies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and people were really getting hit in select locations with rockets. And if you could pick a safe spot, it's quite the show to watch, on top of the fact that there's clowns jumping around and they're throwing buckets of pop on people and dumping feathers on them, and just tarring and feathering people. And like I said, the crowd, there's probably about at least 2,000 people every show.
Is it tough to get your own show up to that level of energy? Like, it's a circus, right? Like how do you come out with a more normal stage show where you're not...
You mean like my individual performance at their show?
Yeah. Was it daunting to come out before that? Like,
to be honest, my strength in life, in my opinion, is performing. I'm very good when I grab a microphone and start speaking. I'm very shit when I'm waiting to go on a stage, sitting behind it. That's when I'm like, all the butterflies. It doesn't matter how many shows I do.
Yeah.
Still sitting there, gut rot, eating myself alive. But as soon as I get up, and the more people, the better, which is also funny. Okay. If there's like 12, it's like, hey, how's everybody doing today?
But if somebody coughs over in the corner.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You got to look every single individual in the eyes. But if there's about 2,000, you literally just walk out there and it's like, make some fucking noise, and everyone's like, ah!
Yeah, and there to party.
Bring the energy, and I'm loud, and I got a lot of energy myself. So if you can bring the energy, most of the time they give it right back.
Yeah,
that's what they're looking for. It's people that don't bring proper energy that get quiet crowds, and then they get a dead energy in the building.
Yeah, MCs with like laid back flow or whatever would have a tougher time being that opening act or whatever.
100%.
But yeah, you deliver your bars with aggression and energy for the most part. So yeah.
I like to do a little talking and yelling in between, and perking the crowd up a bit and stuff like that. So you got to do all that stuff, and they just get right into it, right? So it was a good fucking time, man. I'll never forget that, to be quite honest with you. I got clips of that on my YouTube if you ever want to look that up, or anyone wants to look that up.
I might. You should send me a link afterwards, man. That'd be dope.
Yeah, it's got a few of the shows kind of mixed and mashed together. So obviously the audio is kind of fucked up because it goes from show to show and based on where you're at with the speakers in the club. But so still, it's a good depiction.
You said that you really enjoy the stage element. I like to ask people if they enjoy stage or studio more. I kind of feel like you already answered that for me, but I'll ask you anyways.
Yeah, I 100%. I enjoyed I'm very meticulous. So when it comes to the studio, it's just more frustration and anger than happiness.
I got you.
But
Okay, so
yeah, and the stage is just a release, you know, like just a fucking a good time where usually you get feedback from other human beings where
hell
when
yeah.
you get other human beings giving you feedback about stuff you did, it's a great fucking feeling, right? It makes you want to keep doing what you're doing. So
Can
I'll
I
definitely
ask
say
you
that.
just kind of a hypothetical then? Like, say there was no more opportunity to be on stage for, I don't know, whatever reason, fucking super
Yeah,
COVID, nobody can be out on stage, whatever, something like
yeah,
that. Would you still be making music? Like, because you made
yeah.
Rorschach at a
Because
time when you probably couldn't be performing, right?
yeah, and 100%. Because honestly, it's weird even that I say that because it's like performing doesn't completely drive me to make the music. It's just my favorite aspect of it.
It's
I
almost like
really
the
like to
payoff, eh?
create.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like and the best release of them all, but it's all a release. Like you know, the getting in the booth is a release. Writing lyrics is a release.
Hell yeah.
Like you know, every little step of the way is a release. And I really like listening to my finished product, which at one point I used to mix and master my own stuff, and I found it like kind of made me sick after years of doing it, where I'm like too much of touching my own product.
Right.
It's like I'm not happy with it in the end because I know I did the beginning, the middle, and the end. So
Yeah.
now I got my go-to engineer. Shout out my boy Whitey Ryan White from SK Studios and Dwayne Henry SK Productions, and I go to them all the time. I record my music. I come home. They send it to me when it's ready. After they mix it down, you know, 5, 6, 7 times, throw a master on it, send it over, and then I get to listen to like what my music has created. That process I always love to listen and just
Yeah.
throw in the car.
It's
My
nice to
wife
have
gets
a few chefs
saying
helping out to get the final product perfect,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
and your wife is going, "You're listening to your song again."
That's, I think every artist, man, we're probably all our own biggest fans running up the
Oh,
play
trust me,
count.
you gotta be. If you're not, then why are you doing it, right?
That's what I always say too. If you like somebody else's bars better than your own, you should probably go rewrite your own shit. Like, if that's not
Well,
what you want to
exactly,
express, then yeah, why you said it?
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, can I ask you, like, you know, I'm a lyricist myself. This is a show that I think a lot of rappers kind of tap into just to even like learn more about each other on local scenes and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
do stuff like network so that when we go play shows in other towns, we know the people there and stuff. But
yeah.
I like to ask, like, can you explain your writing process a little bit? Like, how does your average verse come together?
It's a great question. I've really thought about it to break it down meticulously.
It's because most
To be
people who
honest with
aren't,
you,
you
so
know, rappers
I
ourselves aren't gonna even ask a question like that,
yeah,
right?
I write pretty fast usually, but starting can be a real catch point. So usually trying to think of like how I actually come to things sometimes. Sometimes it's just you know you're doing something in life or you see something or I don't know, you hear something that makes you think of something else and it gives you 2 bars. And it usually always starts with 2 bars.
Yeah,
You know, just oh, I just thought of this dope little this and this is like this and this. And it's like just a little simile or a little metaphor. And usually if I have that 2 bars, it's like I think actually see one of my influences in life and favorite artist to listen to is Vinny Paz. Now,
yeah.
one thing about Vinny Paz that I like to say, if you listen to my music, Vinny Paz has sounded the same for a very long time. Where I like to think through me, people can be like, "Yeah, you sound a lot like Vinny, or you're influenced by Vinny," which I am, but there's also a lot more going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, right? So,
Well, and you're
and
rhyming
no
with an
disrespect,
energy that he doesn't necessarily bring. I feel like, I mean,
yeah,
not that he doesn't have an energy or whatever, but I feel like it's a different level of energy that is typically in your
yeah,
lyrics and
right.
stuff. Yeah, and
But
different beat selection
just
too, man. He's yeah,
100%, 100%. But I mean that's like his shit gets me going. That gets me amped. Like so, I do like listening to his music. That's savage. Like I'm just gonna eat this fucking beat alive type shit.
yeah.
But he wrote some stuff, and I can't even remember the bar because it's been so long, and I got so many damn bars in my head, especially of my own, let alone other people's. But it was something to the point of like I could teach you how to rhyme. It's so easy, and it's like just take 2 words and put it with another 2 words that sound the same, and it's like dumb as that sounds, and like now a lot of us, if you know the 2-word thing, there's a lot of 2-word rappers, and I can't escape 2-word rapping these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the
it's
double rhyme
hard.
at the end of every line.
Yeah, it's very hard, right?
Yeah.
So you get caught into these things, but
it's a fine line between like doing too much of that, where it sounds like a guy's just filling in blanks between the double words, you know, and having them sound like something that still sounds conversational. I think that's the mark of like.
Well, and this is the thing: you can't like have the 2 words, or whatever the hell, your rhyme word, and fill in the blanks. You can't like pre-do it like that.
Yeah.
Because then you're already kind of like setting up a rhyme scheme that doesn't tell a story, or you're trying to fit a story into
exactly.
it. At the same time, you always have to have coherency with your story. It always has to relate to you as a human being. And with me, like I don't talk about guns and stuff like that, but I'll talk about destroying people. I'll talk about like I said, savage type shit where you're like, you know, but I also like to talk about like how the government destroys people, or how we're all fucked, or how,
yeah.
You know, it's like I find it's hard for me, and even from the perspective of listening to music, I don't like happy music, so to speak.
Yeah,
I like stuff that's about sadness, or about it's dark, or like it's got a story to tell. But that story, when you really like, sometimes it sounds dope, and like you're like, wow, this is fucking such a dope song, and then you start learning about the lyrics behind it, and that's also a nice thing. Music can educate people in so many different ways, right?
Dude, a lot of my favorite rap songs, though, like you can't really say what that song is about. You know, there's a lot of Wu-Tang songs where it's like, tell me what fucking 36 Chambers is about. Any of those tracks, like.
You want to know what's funny? I've been listening to a lot of Ghostface, and he's the biggest fucking doo-doo rhymer. Is like, but he's amazing. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think he's fucking dope.
He's one of my favorites, like, man. There's a quote from him. Like, I always say, man, sorry, I got to get this quote off. He always says like, well, he did at least in one magazine that I read, say like that he paints his music like Picasso painted pictures. And he said like people could walk up and they look at a Picasso and they don't know like whether it's a dog or a tree or a bench. And he said like that's what I want my music to be. I don't give a fuck if they know what I'm saying or not.
I love listening to Ghostface for that reason.
Yeah, man.
It's all like similes and metaphors connected to metaphors that don't even make sense, but then you realize they do make sense. Yeah. If you really get deep into it, right?
Or in some abstract way, it makes sense. Or even just the wordplay. There's stuff you've never heard, right? But
yeah, I mean, I'm a Wu-Tang Mob Deep kid myself, so trust me, it was just I grew up gangster music till I die, so I still listen to that shit. I have a hard time listening to anything else, man.
Hell yeah, man.
And boot camp, you know what I mean? Boot camp's what it's all about. Like Sean Price could teach so many people how to rhyme. So realistically, you want to learn how to rhyme, listen to someone like Sean Price, because he plays with it.
Sean Price is one of my favorite lyricists because he doesn't use big complex words, but his rhyme schemes are intricate as fuck. So he can rhyme a bunch of like 1-syllable words together, but he'll rhyme 7 words in a line or some shit, right? Like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh shit, where's my 9?
Yeah,
yeah, man. Just ridiculous little
effortless
things,
style. So, and you know that's the epitome of a guy that doesn't sound like he is filling in blanks. He's saying stuff that sounds like it's all off the top of his head. I mean, probably a lot of those $500 verses he was throwing around were.
Yeah, like this guy is hip hop. This guy is an MC. Like, he's pure passion. He's rhymed till he died.
Yeah, man. Right? Of all the acts we've lost in hip hop, man, he was the one that hit me the hardest, honestly, because he was one of my favorites as I was like really into the prime of my loving hip hop or whatever, right? Yeah, man.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah, man. So there's a segment that I've been wanting to do with people where I ask a series of how important is this thing question to you. So I'm just gonna kind of go through a list here. You can, if you want to answer it on like a 1 to 10 scale, there's no real that you're only the second guy that's done this. I made Kripal do it last week, but however you want to answer it, I think it's just a good way to get people to rant a little bit sometimes too. But how important is it to, well, let's do this. You were talking about it. How important is it to open for big name rappers when they come to your town?
I'm going to put that on like a scale of like, let's say a 6 out of 10 for the reason of it's not that important for the perspective of who gives a shit who you're opening for, but it is important from the perspective of give a shit who you're opening for.
Well, yeah.
Give a shit about your show at all times, and the bigger the person you're opening for is, the bigger the crowd, the more response, the more feedback, the more your music can grow, the more it matters. So, like I'm saying, the name doesn't matter, but the draw of the name matters to you.
Exactly.
Because that person, you don't matter to that person, nor should that person really matter to you, unless you're a fan of them. All the power to you that you're opening for your favorite artist, yada yada.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know what
there's
I mean?
The personal side of it too. If you get to shake hands with somebody who you grew up listening to or whatever.
If you're about a business and you're trying to let this grow into something that's going to be your life, or hopefully a piece of it, for a long time, then just the name doesn't matter, but the draw does. So I'll even bump that up. I'll make it an 8 out of 10, but that's my reasoning why, because it is important. But
how important is writing love songs?
Wow. It's just about as important as watching romances with my wife.
There you go. Yeah, that was about what I expected you to tell me, but I wanted to hear it.
I think I wrote one track on Rorschach. I don't know if you got to it, but
I did
near the end.
I did. Yeah, that was one of the reasons I wanted to ask. Yeah,
it's about my wife when I first met her, like about 5.5 years ago.
I'm not gonna lie, it sticks out a little bit on the album. I mean, like the rest of the album, it's not that it's a bad song. It's just the rest of the album is like punch you in your face aggression music. Well, and you got the song about your daughter too. But there's.
No, I try to have a bit of a mix, but I'm very aggressive, right? So my music stays that way. Even the song about my daughter, it's not like I rap soft or whisper or anything. It's still me rapping like
real
I rap,
shit,
just talking about nice things. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but the shit. Even the shit I did, it's one of those things. Like it was like, let's do it once, let's never do it again.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't need to be Ja Rule, the second coming.
Not high on your list. I mean, I think that there are people who, when I ask that question, they're going to tell me it's important because you want to appeal to as many people out there as possible or whatever, right? Like, there's definitely some guys that have that plan for their music.
Peter Jackson's very successful, and I'm not these days because I stay underground, and the heads that listen to me love me, but we don't touch radio and higher sources of hip hop because our hip hop is boom bap, old school, or if it's new school, it's still very aggressive, kind of new wave style, and it's still for the heads, for the spitters.
It's the type of radio that college radio plays.
And to be honest, it's like that's why people like Drake. Like you're exactly what you're saying, because that's what women, children, my daughter grow. Like if my daughter can grow up listening to this shit, you're doing well, bro.
It's a really relatable way to write a song, right? Everybody falls in love at some point, so everybody's going to be able to relate to a love song at some point in their life. Where,
100%.
Other experiences, maybe not so much.
All the power to you, because you're right. The more audiences you can relate to, the better off you're doing for yourself. So,
hey, that's not my personal. I'm just, personally, I'm about where you're at. I don't really write love songs, man.
I'm on some real shit though. Like a love song doesn't have to be about like your typical for example, it could be about someone you lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's love, but it's still lost. And then, like, to be honest, I lost my sister. Like I said, I'd mention her a lot in my music, but I haven't found it in me to like put that one song together that I'm gonna forever judge. And it's like it has to be the most perfect angelic thing, and I'm not ready for that. And it's been 7 years, and I'm still not fucking ready for that, man. So,
dude, writing rap songs that are very topical like that is tough. To rap about the same thing for 3 verses or whatever, and 2 verses these days, but like it's got to be perfect if you're gonna come at one topic.
Mariah Carey on it, or fucking Whitney Houston, God rest her soul,
especially something that close to the heart for you, man. You want to get that one right. Yeah,
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So from that perspective, but from the perspective of, I love this girl, I think it's corny, and I think if you're jumping from relationship to relationship and you want to tell everyone how much you love the girl every fucking time, and curse you.
I mean, I hear you. I will say that since I've been doing After the Smoke is Clear, I've been learning to just listen to all different types of hip hop and find a respect for the songwriting. So like there are guys who can write love songs and they're not just using the same like, oh girl, you rock my world cliche fucking bars.
You know what, how about Far Side, Passing Me By?
Yeah.
It's not right, a song like that. That's a dope track.
There are ways to do it, and when they do, when somebody does nail it, you know, it can be extra dope. But yeah,
no, you're right. And
few and far between.
To everything, right? So
hell yeah, man. How important is a rapper's vocabulary?
That's kind of a tricky question for a person like me because I love accents. I love I like people like Big Crit. I got on him for a lot. I got into the South music a lot. We even listen to, and to be honest, it's kind of funny because I'm more of a lyricist and into lyricism. But we had an era when we were kids. We listened to 3-6 Mafia a whole lot. Yeah. Mind you, Juicy J can spit, but most of them can't.
A vibe though, yeah. 3-6
it was, yeah. And you know, there was, like I said, a lot of drugs and a lot of things going on, so it helped the environment, right?
Yeah. Wah, wah, sad trombone noise, everybody. So this interview was just laden with tech difficulties. It was the only time in any of these interviews that my internet has given out on me, and it happened twice in the same hour. So the second time it happened, we just pulled the plug, tried to reschedule for a few days later, and there ended up being a medical emergency that Zaze had to attend to on the day that we had rescheduled. So at this point, we just have kind of said, you know, thanks, I'll try to talk to you again. We could reschedule later in this season or for, you know, into next season. I'd be happy to talk to Zaze again. But as it is, we talked for like half hour, 40 minutes. I don't know. I enjoyed talking to the guy and, you know, appreciate that he came on to do Fly in Formation. But yeah, for now, we're going to pull the plug on this episode. So apologies to everybody who was listening for the tech inconveniences and difficulties, and also big shout out to Zaze for rolling with the punches. Apologies, you know, sometimes the internet fails us and there's not much that can be done, but I do appreciate that he came on the show immensely. And you know, people who like these type of interviews, make sure you go over to Twitch, hit follow or hit subscribe if you want to support. If you go to dubious.com, there's a donation link that you can make a donation through PayPal directly to me to keep the show going, and I greatly appreciate everybody who does that. But make sure that you tune in October 24th. I'm talking to Stephen Hero. October 30th, I'm talking to DK the producer. November 7th, it's Fly in Formation with Touch. November 14th, I'm talking to another Edmonton-based MC, JusJrdn. November 21st, I talked to Donny, Sage, and Alchemy the Linguist. And November 28th, I'm lined up to talk with RunXGun, who are a duo from Mississauga, Ontario. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to all of these artists, and I hope that people come by, say hi, and chat. And keep tapping into After the Smoke is Clear every week. Mixcloud.com/dubious. That's where we play the best independent hip hop in the country week after week. Peace, everybody.